Spaghetti all'assassina, or assassin spaghetti, is a celebrated culinary icon from Bari, Puglia, invented in the 1960s. It breaks Italian rules by toasting and partially burning spaghetti in a pan with chili and tomato sauce, then slowly cooking it risotto style in a tomato broth. Traditional Italian cooking heavily frowns upon burning or scorching pasta. This dish, however, is a celebrated local innovation and is the regional pride of southern Italy. It was created in 1967 by Foggian chef Enzo Francavilla at the request of two customers from northern Italy. Due to its spiciness, they jokingly called Francavilla an assassin or a murderer, which is where the name later derived from. It's a fairly simple dish, and it only uses a handful of ingredients, with the star being crushed red pepper flakes. The dish uses a lot of them, so it actually does kind of have a nice flair and spice to the dish. I wouldn't entirely call it absurdly spicy, but it definitely has a kick to it, and it's a really delicious way of making pasta. I was really surprised, because this is the first time I've had it, and it turned out very well. Alright, let's get on to ingredients. So for the oil that we're going to be using this extra virgin olive oil from Spain, but we actually got it from Costco. And we don't really need something with a super high smoke point. Like extra virgin olive oil traditionally usually has a lower smoke point, around 350 to maybe 410 degrees Fahrenheit, but it'll just be fine for this pasta, and it's more traditional anyways. I think extra virgin olive oil has a lot more flavor, so we'll just be going with that. And for the pasta that we're going to be using Garofalo organic spaghetti. And spaghetti all'assassina is always traditionally made using this kind of noodle. I mean, it's in the name, of course. Next, we have this Rao's marinara sauce. And a little bit of backstory with Rao's is the Rao's sauce originated from a restaurant in East Harlem, New York City. And to meet high demand, the family launched Rao's homemade marinara sauce in 1992, and it's manufactured in Italy using whole Italian tomatoes. It's not just tomatoes in this sauce. There's also olive oil, onions, salt, garlic, oregano, I think, also probably some pepper and stuff like that. But it's such a small amount of it, it's primarily just tomatoes, so we're going to be adding a lot more of those ingredients back into it. You could also just use crushed tomatoes if you would like. Then moving on quickly, we have some organic peeled garlic from Whole Foods, some organic basil from Trader Joe's, a knife that we'll use to cut the garlic and the basil, and some salt and pepper that we won't actually be using at all. And I can't believe I somehow forgot this, but we also need, of course, crushed red pepper flakes, as it's the star of the dish and what actually makes it spicy. Now we want to start our prep, and basically we're obviously just cutting up the garlic and the basil, and you want to make sure that it's diced pretty finely. Garlic is pretty harsh. When we cook it down, the flavor is going to become less intense and raw, of course, but you don't want to get a big bite of garlic when you're eating this pasta. There is already, I believe, a little bit of garlic in the marinara sauce, but we do want to add more. The recipe calls for it, and I think it just gives a lot of flavor to the dish. And yeah, just make sure you dice it really finely. This takes not very long, of course. And I think I got this garlic for $3.99 at Whole Foods. It wasn't very expensive. And then we also want to get some fresh basil. And this is just pre-packaged from Trader Joe's. I think they also sell basil plants, which is awesome. I just grabbed this quickly for just efficiency. And yeah, you just kind of want to just tear at it and then just kind of hack away at it. It doesn't have to be too fine. This is not going in the dish itself while it's cooking. I'm just kind of prepping this as a garnish for when the dish is complete. And I'll speed the rest of this cutting up. Finally, we can get to cooking. So we're going to be using medium-high heat, and basically we're just going to be putting the diced garlic into the pan with olive oil for about 3 to 4 minutes. We just kind of want it to get sizzling and just kind of engulf in the olive oil, and we can stir it around with this like little wooden spoon. And we just kind of want to stir it, get it nice, and then we will eventually pour the Rao's marinara sauce into this mixture, and you can hear it sizzling right here. From here, we'll just keep stirring for a little bit, and eventually, once it's gotten kind of combined, everything's like nice and warm, we're gonna actually pour some water in it. However much tomato sauce you used, you should probably pour about the same amount in water, because we want this to be more of a tomato broth. We don't want it to be super just like thick with tomato. We don't want it to burn, right? But we want to create a broth that we could kind of just easily kind of kill the heat, and then this will allow us to kind of get more crispy bits on the pasta and actually char it properly. When the broth has simmered for a while, we're going to turn it down to low heat and get started on making the base for the pasta. And this is going to be very similar. We're just going to put the olive oil in a pan over medium-high heat once again. And once the pan has gotten hot, we will put in the crushed red pepper flakes. And we're going to be stirring this for a little bit. And then we will eventually put in the pasta. You want to make sure not to break it. That's a big no-no. And we're going to want to lay it flat and not move it too much. And I really shouldn't be using plastic tongs for this on a pan with such high heat, but it's all I've got. And as you can see here, the bottom of the pasta is burnt and crispy, and this is the intentional way to make this dish, which is very untraditional compared to a lot of other Italian recipes, but this is what we want. And I didn't actually have a ladle at the ready when I was cooking all this, and the closest thing I could find was an ice cream scoop. So I am using that to pour the broth into the pasta. And I want to take this time to kind of talk about why I chose this dish specifically for the project and why it's important to me. And it's kind of just always been a dish that I've wanted to try. It's gotten really popular on social media, food social media, in the past 4 years-ish. I've seen it on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, all the time. It's definitely a dish that has gotten eyes on Italian cuisine more. And I think this is one of those dishes especially that a lot of people saw this and they were like, I want to try that, and actually got people into the kitchen to cook a little bit. So I think it's really cool, and it's definitely something I've wanted to try for a while, and I think it came out really well. And so you're just kind of going to be turning this pasta and getting it to your desired crispiness. You're going to leave it on the pan for a few minutes on each side and just give it a flip, and it'll get more burnt bits on the bottom. And so once that's finally done and it's gotten to your desired crispiness, we're going to start plating. And here I'm just taking the pasta out of the pan, and I'm trying to serve it in that way that you usually see Italian chefs do it, in that swirl. And I actually found out that that's called nido in Italian, which means nest. So it's like a nest serving. And from here, we're just kind of adding the basil that we prepped, and we're going to put on some Parmesan cheese as a nice garnish. I didn't actually decide to put any salt on it, as there's already some salt in the cheese, and I thought it was salty enough. So we'll just add that on nicely on top. And we can also use this opportunity to put more crushed red pepper flakes on top as well. So I'll do that right here and sprinkle it on. Not too much because it's already pretty spicy. And then we've got a pretty completed spaghetti all'assassino here. And it looks very delicious. I'm going to do a quick little spin around. And it's been just about 9 minutes, and that brings us to the end of this cooking demonstration. I hope you guys enjoyed. Here's a few pictures of the finished dish. And this was really fun. It was a really nice opportunity to actually cook and have an excuse to make this dish that I've hesitated to make for a long time. And yeah, it was just a really fun project. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and thank you.